Yes.
All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Abhishek Jain, and I'm pleased to invite you all to the fifth episode of the Fellowship series by Planty. Towards the end of the session, we would also be having a Q&A session for which I will request you all to put your questions in the live chat box that will appear on the right side of your computer screens or at the bottom of your phone screens. Today, we are very fortunate to have with us Mr. Sumit Kumar Ganguly, who graduated from NLU Jodhpur in 2015. He is an awardee of the YPPLE Fellowship or the Young Professionals Program for Legal Empowerment. He is currently pursuing his LLM from Azim Premji University in Bangalore. In this session, Sumit will be talking about the application process for the YPPLE Fellowship, which is essentially a human rights fellowship by the Center for Social Justice. I would now like to hand it over to Sumit to begin the session.
Hello.
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Uh, can you see me right?
Yep.
Okay. So I'm starting. Thank you, Abhishek, for the introduction. I feel really privileged that for inviting me. For I hope that my short session will be beneficial for the audience today. Okay. So the first thing you may ask as to what is YPPLE. Abhishek just few minutes back told it's Young Professionals Program for Legal Empowerment. And this particular fellowship is only meant for law graduates. It is not for other fields like, for example, humanities, sociology, economics, or history, or anthropology, or whatever that you do. This particular fellowship is only limited to law graduates. Okay. So this is the first thing. And this particular fellowship is awarded by an organization called Center for Social Justice. It's based in Ahmedabad, head office, and it has activities across various states, and it is also working with partner organizations. So when I was working, CSJ had offices besides Gujarat. It had offices in Madhya Pradesh and um, Chhattisgarh, and it was working with partner organizations in states like West Bengal, Odisha, Jharkhand, and even Karnataka, and also Telangana. And few months before I left the place, they opened a new office in Jharkhand. So I'll go point by point. So Abhishek had specified to me as to what questions should I primarily address for the interested students. So who should apply the first question? So it's, as I told you, it's totally a law fellowship, and people who are who are law graduates, minimum law graduates, they can apply for this fellowship. There are even students who have done masters, LLM, they also apply, and there are some who have pursued this fellowship after doing their LLM. Secondly, it's not necessary that a person has to immediately hold a graduate certificate. It may happen that the particular candidate appeared for the final exams of his law course, and either the exam is supposed to be held or the results are supposed to be out. So, subject to the declaration of the results, a candidate can apply. And as I said, that law course, so it can be any kind of law course, either 5 year or even 3 year after graduation. Both can apply for this fellowship. When to apply? See, I would like to say that the is widely advertised on various web platforms like Loctopus. For example, then there is a site called Law Off. So when uh, so you must keep a watch on the advertisement, and mostly I'd on Law Purpose. And as soon as you see the advertisement, see the requirements and the necessary formalities that is there, and immediately apply. How to apply? So if when you go see the advertisement, it will be clearly stated as to what is the email ID where you should apply. It would definitely ask for your CV, obviously. And besides CV, it can ask for some other documents, for example, a writing sample of yours. It can be a research paper, it can be a newspaper article, or an article that you have not published anywhere, but you have written it, obviously, original piece and not a plagiarized one. So, so that is the basic thing. Once you make the application, the rest of the process starts. And then in my experience regarding the application process, so I would uh, tell about it now. So when I applied, it was in the year of 2015, and it was I saw the advertisement on Lock Purpose, and immediately I applied. So when I applied at that point of time, the first stage was sharing, besides sharing the CV, a writing sample. I think I don't remember whether there was any criteria, but I think there was a criteria of 1,000 or 1,500 words. Uh, so which I had to share, and then what happened was uh, the further questionnaire was sent, and further questionnaire, they asked for opinions and critical analysis on four topics which I very well remember. One was the Yakub Memon case. The second was the controversy around beef ban. The third is third was Supreme Court judgment in the transgender case. And fourthly, uh, just I'm recollecting, fourthly was the issue of reservation in jobs. So I had to answer these four on these four topics, and besides these four, they asked for a further write up to test the analytical skills. They also asked for a list of the last 10 readings that I have done. And there was one question which asked for, uh, w- um, which was basically a self uh, score about certain skills that I may possess or possess. Sorry, one for important thing I forgot to say. The first thing and the first point regarding the step two of the application process, as I said, were these questionnaire, etc. The first questionnaire, obviously, question was the statement of purpose as to why I am best suited for this particular fellowship, as to how it also asked to describe myself, and also as a person and as well as professionally. So just to remember these things. Step one, as I said, the basic application, email along with the CV and writing sample. Step two was on was short, writing short notes. Rather, I would not say they were articles on four topics, which at that point of time was sent to us. And then there was statement of purpose, and they asked for uh, another write up. Then self-assessing the skills, and lastly, the reading last 10 readings that I have done. So after this, after the submission, they took a few months, I think around 2 months, and they get back with the last process of interview. So I had to go directly to Ahmedabad to appear for the interview. So the interview process was not direct personal interview by a panel. It The whole process spanned for 2 days, and it was through and on those 2 days there were several activities. So, for example, there were documentary show. Then on the documentary there was a discussion. There was this art of ikebana flower arrangement where we had to describe as to why we design the flowers in a particular manner. Then group discussions, then writing and drawing on charts uh, while trying to describe certain social issues. The last process, there were two interviews at the end. One was done by the executive director, and at the end, it was the head of the organization. So these two were personal interviews, and the whole after the whole process, uh, obviously I went back. So within a week or so, I got a confirmation about my selection. So it was a lengthy process, but I had to be patient, and it definitely tests your perseverance. The next is uh, insights about pursuing the YPPLE Fellowship. So this is very interesting as to uh, mm, because this particular fellowship gave me a lot of exposure. I got to work upon various issues of human rights in this particular organization, and what I did, what I did that it was not limited to desk research; it was action research, and I was able to work at the grassroots level. So I have worked in Gujarat, mostly in coastal Gujarat in the Saurashtra region, regarding fisher folk rights. I would not go if somebody asks, I'll tell in details, but I don't wish to. There were various issues concerning the fisher folk community in coastal Gujarat on which I worked upon. Besides that, I have also worked on land rights for Dalit community in Chhattisgarh, and also for BD workers in the state of Madhya Pradesh. And in Gujarat, I also got the opportunity to work for the rights work for manual scavengers. And I would be rather happy and proud to say that I got the opportunity of drafting several PILs, and some of them PILs were actually filed in the High Court of Gujarat, and we also got favorable orders from the High Court in some of the cases. Okay, so uh, the next point is opportunities and skills acquired upon completion of the YPPLE fellowship. Okay, very interesting. So YPPLE fellowship actually opened the door rather for further new jobs in the social sector, obviously not in the corporate sector. It may be it may not be necessary working on the same human rights issues, but other issues of human rights, but in the social sector. And it actually created a foundation for me before I could pursue my LLM. And so I am pursuing LLM from Azim Premji University. In the pandemic, obviously, we are not able to have the physical classes. So if the actual in the if the LLM would have happened in the real world, there would have been a certain time period and a certain part of our course that would have been dedicated to the field work. So we have this law and policy hub for our LLM. So a part of the policy hub project is field based. So which actually cannot happen right now. It is happening virtually. I don't know whether it will happen actually. It's uncertain. But I got what I understood is I have an upper hand than many of my batchmates who don't have this field exposure. So this action research kind of thing has actually helped me, and I this was the biggest learning that I had working at Center for Social Justice. Then busting common myths. So the first thing is I would say that don't underestimate yourself as to because in CSJ people are judged, the applications rather are judged on the talent or merit and the hard work of a person. So your CV or add a more than the CV, your interview and all the activities do you do during the interview process is an important aspect uh, to to evaluate yourself. So don't be very tensed and nervous while applying. Just uh, remain calm and follow the instructions diligently and do your work. The rest is uh, not in your hands. So anybody, it is not a very tough job, but at the same time, uh, don't take it casually. And so this is I wanted to say. And any general tips for students who want to apply it. So general tips, I would say the first one is be humble. Don't uh, show that even if you belong from a privileged background, you may be from a rich family. Well, uh, you your parents may be in great positions of power and etc etc. So there can be various aspects of being a privileged person. So don't show that. Try to be humble because there are people in this organization or in the social sector rather from all kinds of society, and you have to be decent enough to talk to them and give every one of them equal respect. Second thing is uh, be happy with all the facilities that you get. So when you are working in the social sector, in the when you go to the particular field, you may not have the many luxuries that you have at your home or at your at the place you are studying. So that place may not have a proper water supply. There may not be good toilets for you to use, and obviously forget uh, getting to travel in uh, app cabs, rather, I would say, in remote locations where you have to travel in jeeps or uh, shared or in public vehicles, and sometimes even on motorbikes of some persons. And you must behave decently with people with whom you work or deal with at the field areas. And for example, another thing in the luxury I wanted to say that you may have the privilege of getting ACs which you definitely will not have when you are working in the field. Uh, Another thing is with respect to uh, suppose you are in a particular field and you are offered water and food, so you should not uh, reject that on the face, and you should accept it even if little is offered to you, so that the person who may be however how much poor the person may be, the person gets a lot of joy when they are able to feed you. And so the basic courtesies and behavior that is expected. Uh, so this is all. I took a lot of time. I thought I would finish in 10 minutes, but I took 20 minutes. Abhishek,
No,
you
no,
can
I
pitch
don't
in.
think it's any issue at all. I think you could have gone on a little more if you would like. But I
No,
think that was a
I'll
very,
address questions now.
yeah, definitely. I think it was a very informative session, sir. And thank you for that. So, moving on to questions. I think one of the main questions that I have with respect to this fellowship is that if I understand correctly, it's a very human rights centric fellowship, right? So I just want to understand that would you suggest or recommend that if a student is coming in into this kind of a fellowship, they should have some experience with respect to any kind of human right related work in law school?
No, that obviously adds to an advantage. There is no doubt about that. I had the experience of interning at National Legal Service Authority (NALSA) and also NHRC, National Human Rights Commission. So that is not a requisite, but you must have an, I would say, an affinity towards human rights. It can be through any writings. It should get highlighted in your CV. That is what I mean to say.
All right. Okay, so I think my next question is with respect to the fellowship itself, and I think it's a little more about how the fellowship actually is. So, could you elaborate a little bit more about how exactly your experience was with the field work, and if there is any preset, like a list of tasks that every single fellow is given once they enter the fellowship?
A list of tasks means?
As in, like, is there a pre-decided structure for the fellowship, or is it more like each fellow can come in and decide their own path?
No, no, no. Obviously, the organization functions in a systematic way, and it's not one person who decides. There are various levels in the organization, and there are board meetings, uh, and then there are the organization is divided into teams. So, for example, I worked with the Coastal Gujarat team. Then there were teams from Madhya Pradesh and Chhattisgarh, and there were teams dedicated to particular work or particular theme rather. So, uh, the way they were working, the field is just there to assist them. The field is the field to assist. Sorry, the fellow is there to assist the people of the field, and obviously the head office also. So the people in the field have a lot of knowledge at the ground level, but what they lack is they mm, don't know English much, and they are not well versed with the. They are well. I will not say they're not well versed, but they're aware, but not so much well versed with the laws and legal uh, details. I would rather say, for which the fellow, if the fellow is like a bridge between the head office and the people of the field, rather, I would say, not the field team, because the field team only guides him or her. It is the fellow actually works with the people of the field.
All right. I think moving back to the whole application process and the selection process. So could you like just maybe from your experience give us some general tips for what a good personal statement would look like?
I'm not an expert in this regard, but I wrote an very honest. uh, personal statement about myself as to what I have done and what I wish to do, etc. So only I would suggest ki be very honest is as to what you have done and what you wish to do in the future, and highlight as to what you would like to do in the organization, or rather, and also bring a, little change, not much change, to the society by your contribution in the organization.
Okay. So if I could, I mean, this is again a very fairly general question, and I think you covered this briefly. But could you talk about what are the main qualities that CSJ looks for in the application of an individual? Like, is there any particular thing that you feel that they're looking for in the applications in terms of, let's
Uh,
say, experience or qualities?
I am not much sure, but what I have understood is they for the fellows mm, the college or the university is very important. So important college or university doesn't mean only N series law schools, that is the national law schools. Even there are private or other law schools and universities which are reputed. So that is one factor. Then as I said, as to the writing sample, any published or unpublished work of yours, any research paper, that plays an important part. And your CV as to your experience, as to what you have done in your college life, etc., etc.
All right. So I think this is probably one of my last questions. So could you, talk more about the opportunities that this fellowship opens up after you've completed it, let's say in the field of human rights? What are the different opportunities it actually gives you that you did not have post your law school degree?
Uh, See, certain jobs require prior experience, right? So, in this particular thing, you got an experience in the social sector. So, you can opt for better jobs in the social sector in various dimensions, not only the themes that I have worked upon, which I said, the future folk rights, or manual scavenging, or land rights, or PD workers. It can be anything: water, environment. I'm saying broad areas, or child labor. Any new area you can work upon as you wish. And I have not gone, but there were some people who went to do litigation, or rather, I would say litigation with focus on human rights and public interest, and some went to file public interest litigations, and that is from their own initiative and practice. Another thing, I don't know how many have done, but uh, people, those who want to go for academics, this actually builds a strong foundation as to the ground realities, as to how much law and justice exists at the grassroots level. That is something to ponder upon.
All right, sir. So I think my last question for today is essentially that a lot of fellowships actually also have a training element involved in them, where they actually try to train their fellows on different areas of law. So would you say that the YPPLE Fellowship gave you any such training? And if so, could you talk a little bit about it?
There were various trainings, not very, there were rather many trainings, I would say, for, yeah, and it was not limited only to the fellows, I would tell, it was for all staff members. And the trainings happened around the year, and there were various themes for of training, and there was also the training of trainers. This was a continuous process. So the fellows were trained on uh, for example, one of the thing, I am not remembering a particular software that is used in the social sector. Uh, for example, surveying. Okay, surveying. Uh, Surveying based on particular samples. How to do that? Then there was one important training that we have received was on budget analysis, as to how do you analyze the budget, as to what is the entitlements or allotments for particular, say for example, for the scheduled caste and scheduled tribes, and how it is being disbursed. So that is something that in one of the trainings that we learned.
All right. Thank you for that answer, sir. I think that this session has been very, very informative. And for a lot of students, it's opened up a new opportunity in terms of the YPPLE Fellowship that they could now consider. I would just like to take this opportunity to thank you once again on behalf of Team Plant for actually taking out the time to come out for this session. So thanks a lot, sir.
Yeah, and I would also like to thank you that for giving me for giving me an opportunity to express myself regarding this fellowship. I hope the audience, who were watching this video, have cleared certain of their doubts and apprehensions that they might have regarding the fellowship. And yes, and I am always available. You can drop me an email and I would get back to you if you have any further questions regarding the fellowship.
Yes, sir. Definitely. Thanks. Thanks once again, sir.
Welcome.